This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. Oh, that song, Money's Too Tight to Mention, by Simply Red. Well, we're broadcasting on 800 stations on Pacifica and NPR, and low-power FM and college and community radio stations, on PBS TV stations and public access TV stations, and both TV satellite networks, Dish Network Channel 9415, Free Speech TV, 9410 Link TV, and on Direct TV Channel 375. And we're video and audio podcasting at democracynow.org. Our headlines are also available in Spanish for any radio station to take, as over 200 are, and for you to read, listen to as well. I'm Amy Goodman with Sharif Abdel-Quddus as we turn now to this very significant 8th anniversary. Sharif?
Well, the coming weeks hold critical significance for the U.S. occupation of Afghanistan. The Senate is expected to vote on the Obama administration's $128 billion request to fund war operations in Afghanistan and Iraq for the coming fiscal year. Next week, the Obama administration will unveil a report on whether U.S. benchmarks for success in Afghanistan are being achieved. It's widely believed President Obama will receive a military request to escalate the Afghan war with thousands of additional troops. Top Democratic lawmakers have recently voiced new skepticism about a potential troop increase in Afghanistan. Last week, Senate Armed Services Committee Chair Carl Levin said he would oppose a troop increase until the U.S. improves the training of Afghan forces. Meanwhile, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi suggested she would oppose sending more U.S. troops to Afghanistan.
September 24th is fraught with meaning for us. This is the date, according to the supplemental, that the metrics as to what's going on in Afghanistan are to be reported to Congress. I'm more interested in that report. I hope that we will be briefed on the crystal when the President receives it, and perhaps next week we will see that. I don't think there's a great deal of support for sending more troops to Afghanistan in the country or in the Congress.
The apparent congressional unease over a troop escalation comes near Friday's 8-year anniversary of the vote authorizing the attack on Afghanistan. To mark the date, a group of peace activists have launched a new petition calling for a near-term withdrawal of U.S. and NATO troops. The petition is called Take Action to End the War in Afghanistan. Medea Benjamins, co-founder of Code Pink, one of the groups sponsoring the petition, joining us now by Democracy Now! Video stream. We're also joined by Norman Solomon. He recently returned from Afghanistan, where he took part in a delegation with his group, the Institute for Public Accuracy. Norman Solomon joins us from Washington, D.C. Norman, let's begin with you. What did you find in Afghanistan?
Well, I found in Kabul, the capital of the country, a deteriorating situation in any human terms, and a reality that's much worse on the ground than what we get through the news media or even from Capitol Hill among people who are now portrayed as dissenters. We just heard Nancy Pelosi talking about metrics, which is a new sort of buzzword in politics in Washington dealing with Afghanistan. I've got a few metrics for the Speaker of the House and the people of this country. When you have only 10% of the money from the U.S. government that is for non-military activities flowing into Afghanistan, you have upwards of $150 million a day going there, while the U.S. is widely and increasingly resented for killing civilians, often from the air. You have, as I met at a refugee camp, 700 families in Kabul displaced, and that's just one of the refugee camps, displaced from U.S. bombing efforts in southern Helmand, including a 7-year-old girl who now has one arm, courtesy of U.S. taxpayers. So we have a lot of metrics, and here's one more. The latest CIA fact book tells us that out of 1,000 live births in Afghanistan, there are 154 deaths among infants below age 1. That's a death rate among infants of more than 15% in Afghanistan. That's the metric that we should be taking on. This administration and the U.S. government is waving the white flag against the biggest enemy in Afghanistan, which is poverty.
And you raise this issue of poverty. Talk about how you went to Afghanistan, and also you write about how senators and congresspeople go to Afghanistan and staffers go, but they're escorted there by the military. Explain that difference.
Yes, well, our delegation, which is sponsored by the organization where I work, the Institute for Public Accuracy, went to Afghanistan with great difficulty, and we chronicled that On our website, accuracy.org, we encourage and request public support because we were swimming upstream the entire way. We had lined up a member of Congress who agreed to go, congressional staffers who have a key role in formulating policy from Capitol Hill on Afghanistan. The State Department intervened and essentially discouraged and, in effect, blocked that participation from Capitol Hill because our trip was independent. It was an effort, a civic delegation, to move outside the usual bubble where virtually all U.S. employees, including from Capitol Hill, go. And they find out the official line when they go to Afghanistan and they come back. We had an opportunity to meet with a wide range of people. As a small Institute for Public Accuracy delegation, we met Afghan officials. We met Afghan and other NGO organizations. We met refugees. We met with UN agencies. We met with feminists, including Malala Joya, who was subjected to 5 assassination attempts because while in the Afghan parliament she denounced the warlords, many of them still supported by the U.S. government.
And Norman Solomon, the issue of who the U.S. is allying itself with in Afghanistan. We have Hamid Karzai, who has been accused of widespread fraud in this recent election. The runner-up, Abdullah Abdullah, as well. Can you talk about who the U.S. is allying itself with and what you see as the ultimate mission in Afghanistan of the Obama administration?
Well, I met with and talked to scores of Afghan citizens in Kabul, and with the exception of Hekmat Karzai, who happens to be the president's cousin, virtually all of them expressed, particularly in private, a belief that the Karzai government has lost whatever legitimacy it may have had. It was known for a long time, widely corrupt, known for a long time inept, now illegitimate as well. And it's just laughable to hear the U.S. talk about this war as, among other things, being a war against opium and heroin and so forth, when it's widely known that Wali Karzai, the brother, one of the brothers of the president of Afghanistan, is a huge drug trafficker in his role as head of the provincial council in Kandahar. We found really, I think, a sense of despair, frankly. Kabul in recent months has become more violent. You can see the AK-47s and machine guns on the street, and in the case of AK-47s, virtually block by block. And people are trying now to see how to get out of this mess. Abdullah Abdullah, who gets some good U.S. coverage from the media as well as support from Washington, is a warlord himself. He was one of the major warlord combatants in the very horrific 4-year period between 1992 and 1996, when in Kabul 65,000 residents lost their lives. And so you've got the president of Afghanistan lined up with warlords with blood on their hands. Same goes for Abdullah Abdullah. And meanwhile, the people of Afghanistan are suffering.
Norman, Ken Silverstein, in the latest issue of Harper's Magazine, has a very interesting breakdown of the amount of money that is going to Afghanistan, that actually the vast majority of it stays right here in the United States, a kind of corporate welfare.
Yeah. Well, we saw that on the ground, and it's worse than the figures that I had seen before getting to Afghanistan. You know, the president pushed through a supplemental appropriation this spring, 90% military, 10% non-military, but the 10% overstates it. A lot of the money is cycling back to U.S.-based contractors and so forth. There's also an emerging bubbling scandal that hasn't really hit the U.S. yet. USAID, which is dispensing taxpayer money supposedly in a humanitarian way, widely understood to be corrupt. Dispensing money in ways that is not helping people. I mean, when I go to, and anybody could do that who wanted to go, and meet refugees in Kabul who were first bombed courtesy of U.S. taxpayers, and now they're left to fend for themselves and await help, voluntary assistance from Afghan businessmen, that tells you about the priorities. I mean, the real myth is that this war is about helping people in Afghanistan. I see no appreciable evidence of that. One more example at a policy realm, which has gotten virtually no media attention in this country. I met with Mohammed Zia, who is reputedly perhaps the only major minister of the Afghan government who is not corrupt. He's the head of rural development and rehabilitation for the Karzai